Have we seen?
I don't know. I think we should just start.
We should start.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our webinar. Vista is an integrated value creating voice and platform for the entire value chain from fiber to fashion. This forum comprises dyed-in-the-wool apparel industry related professionals who have been in the business globally with a cumulative experience spanning decades. A collective of apparel, fashion, textile industry professionals, Vista aims to play a transformational role in innovation, technology, and sustainability, finally to create brand India. Vista strives to unify the textile and apparel value chain in India to maximize its impact globally. We will act as a platform to bring all stakeholders to a shared vision and action plan from farm to fiber, fiber to factory, factory to fashion, and fashion to foreign, as per the 5F plan towards integrated economic development as outlined by Honorable Prime Minister Narendra Modi. As the first step in a series of webinars have been hosted to understand the new realities and the new normal post the COVID catastrophe. Now, based on the overwhelming success of Vista's first webinar, where more than 800 participants from over 25 countries participated, we are happy to announce this second webinar, a live roundtable actually, where we focus on the potentially winning opportunities that beckon the industry post this crisis. So I would like to now present the 5-member panel to provide insights to us. I would start with Gaurav Bhargava.
Hi, Rupak.
Bhargava, President, LPH Apparel Incorporated, is based in Los Angeles, California, United States. The company owns brands and is an importer of private label apparel to some of the largest apparel retailers in the US. Gaurav is very well versed with buying from all apparel production centers. So welcome, Gaurav, aboard.
Thank you, Rupak. Thank you all.
I would like to ask you that as an importer in the US, in the proverbial hot seat, as they say, as a buyer, how do you see the retail reality to have changed in the United States, or rather in the Americas? And what would you suggest needs to be done by India to increase its apparel exports to the US?
Thank you, Rupak. Thank you all for, first of all, listening to our Vista seminar. I would like to thank all of the manufacturing team that is from India and Southeast Asia, who all are supporting the business. You're the real heroes of the apparel industry in all sense. I'm sure everybody listening here has never experienced a pandemic in our lifetime. We're talking about the whole supply chain from small trim vendors to buyers to a retailer all the way through. And we all know business has been tough, whether it's vendor or a retailer. For last 20 years, I believe the US import from India has been close to 3%. So now after this pandemic, when the retailers open up, all the sentiments, what China has been doing and all the industry that has taken shape, we have, as India has a great potential to grow the business. They were not able to grow the business earlier for some reasons, whatever the challenges were, but I see a lot of things that are coming out of India is for Dollar General, Five Below. If they can supply to these retailers, I'm pretty sure they can supply to a bigger and a wider market. On a positive note, what I think going forward, India has an edge of growing the business. A lot of the buyers here are looking not for a huge volume. The capacity will come from going forward is there'll be a lot of styles, a lot of SKUs that India is good in delivering. So a whole variety is required. And I would suggest the vendors from India that they make this presentations based on the seasons. US market is way different from Europe. Our customer doesn't want to wear outfits 10 times. They want to wear 2 or 3 or maximum 4 times. So we need more stuff here, and they want to shop more. Now the challenge is, sharpening up the pencil, getting ready to get the big numbers. The business won't be same as usual, a lot of changes. And we are looking forward to, the buyers have missed out buying for fall, which usually they buy in April and May. Now there'll be a sudden requirement for speed to market, very quick turn, that India has to be ready to deliver a lot of product. And again, I would emphasize on doing a very good presentation. Technology should be in place. We've been using 3D, so use as much possible. California has been very sharp because we are also a manufacturing hub of United States. So go ahead and do your best, give the best presentations. That I would suggest that, and I'm pretty sure we'll win the market. Back to you, Rupal.
It's encouraging to hear that, Gaurav. Would you like to address some of the concerns, in fact, a lot of concern that exporters and agents here have about financial security in terms of the payments for the goods that they've exported to the United States?
See, there are a lot of third parties that are involved, and going forward, I would suggest take help. Do not depend on just reality, like any, there's a lot of unforeseen circumstances. People can go out, bankruptcy, all this is happening. Make sure you get insurance, domestic insurance for US, or there are third-party factoring companies out of UK and even US. Take some friends' help. If they're based in US, they're manufacturing, that people you trust, factor through all the payments, whether it's small or big, and it'll be really, really helpful. If anybody needs any information about some of the factoring services, some insurance companies, email it to the panel, and somebody will get back to you. I'll get back to you with that and give you more information and insight of, this is very important, that do not ship just for the sake of, we got the order. Get it insured, few percentage, and it'll be worth your value, worth your money. Back to you, Rupert.
So the message we are getting is that unlike the past, where we chase just numbers, now it's better to be very cautious, do less, but do safe.
Do less, do safe, do a healthy business. That's the way going forward. And I'm telling you, just a little percentage will take you a long way, as long as your money is secured, and you get the money faster too in factoring. So looking at all that, you want to rotate your money. I don't ship anybody if it's not factor approved. So whoever says whatever, it's very important, these factors and insurance companies who are coming up globally, and there is a buyer's finance available, there is a vendor finance available. If people are not getting approved, you do a legit small business or big business, keep your books clean, make it healthy, and go for it.
All right, it's very useful for us to hear that. Now, being based in California, I'm sure you're also exposed to a lot of other markets in the Americas, like Mexico and Brazil. I'm not naming Canada here, but from what I have experienced, these markets have not been as badly affected by this epidemic. We have not had as many cancellations or defaults as these two markets. Would you share some insights on these, not so much focused on markets and how easy it is to penetrate them?
It is easy to penetrate, but again, I would say Mexico's companies, I would suggest you ship through US, so you can get some insurances, make a DI shipments to them. Those markets are really good. India has a lot to offer that market because of the cultural and the, it's backing up of what goods we produce and what goods they need. resort in Mexico is a huge business. So I would suggest some of the people to go ahead and tap that business, which is out there.
So do you have experience of participation in fairs? There are a lot of fairs which are held in Panama City, as you know, which is the center for distribution to the South American continent, in Mexico City, etc. In Brazil, it's very expensive and it requires a lot of investment. And many exporters have this question, and agents too, that is it worthwhile for them?
I suggest hold on, do not invest a lot of money to exhibit at the moment, because what current situation, financial situations of those countries right now are, they have a difficulty. It's all cash-based payment. Exploring new opportunity is good, but maintaining what we have and focusing on the right markets that can generate and establish this good customer base, which is US and Europe. People who will be coming back up, they will help support. And if you support them, they'll support you.
All right. Very insightful of you, Gaurav. Thank you. So I would now like to introduce the next panelist, Mr. Vivek Bhatnagar. Vivek is the CEO and the founder of Fusion Group, a well-established buying house in the NCR. Fusion also has a garment factory and a life care and an entertainment unit. Vivek's passion for many years has been sustainability in the entire supply chain, and his mantra has always been go for it. So welcome, Vivek, on board this panel.
Hi, Rupak. Hi, Rupak.
Hi. So I would like to ask you that in light of your vast experience in Europe, both as an agent and also as a manufacturer, could you tell us about the new retail reality in Europe, particularly Northern Europe, and how could India penetrate more into these markets? After all, the European Union is the world's largest trading bloc.
Namaskar, friends, and thanks, Rupak. Dear friends from the apparel world. Like Rupak said, today it's time to find the positivity. And Atmanirbhar for me is self-dependence, preservation, and presentation of a new mindset to Europe. Most of us are baby boomers, and at the start of our careers, we saw a lot of this struggle. The light at the end of the tunnel will be bright if we adapt and make brand India shine. So we need to think what is most imperative for success in Europe post-COVID. Rupak, I'll try and talk about that. The most important things that come to my mind is a new mindset and a unique skill set. This reset has taught us survival. Now it is time for revival. Let's change the game. Find a new mindset of transparency, a new niche, a social media driven positioning, since customers will find you more online, a new USP on your product, the best country and customer fit, and a higher skill set. So friends, go ahead, acquire your digital tech and digital footprint and social media promoters that will drive the volumes to you. Friends, we need to change our mindset to be transparent, proactive, and a black and white way of doing business is the way Europe does business. They believe in the short and direct approach. To my mind, market is a very broad topic, but I'll look at the geographical forerunners with the readiness quotient being high due to the risk attached and drawbacks in some of the competing countries around us. Brands, retailers, and online influencer brands and concept-driven brands in Europe are looking to move borders, but friends, they're demanding flexibility, design excellence, tech excellence, security, safety, and quality consistency. The price challenges are not as imperative as quantities have shrunk. The USP of GSP, which was unique to the neighbors, is secondary now. Less travel and easy travel to India is going to be a big advantage as opposed to our neighbors for Europe. So friends, geographically, you must focus upon Japan, the Scandinavian market, the Dutch market, the German market, and the Australian market. These markets are really stable, and they are consumer spending economies with the liquidity in their businesses. Dive deep, dive focused, dive into the product, and a USP-centric approach and success will be yours in these markets. Now look at what are the types of buyers or customers you must focus upon. Well, the ones who have the ability to pay and are ethical. According to the McKinsey report, almost 80% of the companies in US and Europe will be in financial distress. However, let's not lose hope. There's a large sustainability-driven market across Europe, which found itself to be a misfit in the mainstream retail earlier. Today, they shall be the new champions. The DNA of such brands stands on ethics, faith, consciousness, sustainability, transparency, and these are the ones India as a market must focus on. The agents of change are all these mid-sized brands globally. However, for Europe, try and focus on the medium-sized retailers like Boost, Zalando, and Boohoo, and so on. Medium-sized brands whose DNA has sustainability at the core, such as Hope and Reformation and brands like Able. Medium-sized brands who need India's strength to become sustainable. Focus upon brands who are seeking transparency in the supply chain. Give it to them. Focus upon brands who are looking at digitalization of tech and design. Work on it. Focus upon brands and names in Europe and not the names you hear every day. That is to be the mantra today. To be honest, all the names that we know of the high street retailers such as the H&M, Zara's and others shall define their own businesses and business practices. The Indian supply chain will have to adapt. So our uniqueness shall not come into play there. Bag and tag is another concept that I will talk about. We must source. Sorry, Buck?
Well, I'm very glad that you've been able to address the audience with these. I would just wanted to interject about one market block, which I think is becoming very important, and perhaps you would like to address it, which is the Eastern European bloc.
Yeah. So, Rupak, Eastern Europe has always been a producer in the early days. Today, Eastern Europe is actually a buyer. The whole advantage that India will have is that we are a manufacturing country, and Eastern Bloc understands this. The Russian market till now has been actually dependent on a lot on the Eastern Bloc. But today, with the demands of sustainability and new product innovation, Russia is a new market, Romania is a new market, Finland, Poland, and all of that belt beyond is actually something we should also focus upon. The difference is that they are going to be buying the basics. Maybe today it's a bit difficult time because they haven't evolved, and the countries that will evolve first will be the Scandinavian countries and the Northern Europeans. Once they start, the rest will follow. So another fact that when we were talking last week to some of my customers, because Scandinavia has not actually closed down at all. Sweden did not shut down for COVID at all. They are looking at starting the base from scratch. They're saying, give us the bag and tag option. We need to be able to offer a supply chain that has basic recycled trims, labeling, packaging as the base offer. Don't even offer us polyester taffeta labels. Few of the customers are talking about that we don't know when we will buy, but when we start buying and we are able to start delivering to them for the export orders, the first thing they want is finishes. India wasn't considered for this earlier at all, but let's change the game and acquire knowledge as this market of performance finishes, tech-driven fabrics, body balance technology, and athleisure is a whole new market. Rupak, the DWRs, the antimicrobials, antivirals across both woven and jersey is really, really going to be large in Scandinavia. The antivirals, the anti-ticks, anti-mosquito finishes is a new market opportunity amongst all the European outdoor children's brands. This market was not ever open to India, and it went into either a European production or the Chinese production. Today, the world is open because India is giving you a safer option. Get into a smart market, connect, collaborate, cooperate, as this partnership and sharing approach will help you compete on a larger platform. The Lenzings, the DuPonts, the Argument technologies, and the buzzwords of EcoVero, smart cotton, and copper-infused fibers is opening a whole new market in Europe. Get set and go,
It's
my
very
friends.
encouraging to hear this. Basically, the focus towards more technical and medical textiles, which will dwell more on the product section, and also in terms of what you feel that Scandinavia represents a big enough market for India, along with Holland, which are kind of more conscious than, let's say, mainstream Europe. So we will come back to product a little later and sustainability, which you're very passionate about. Now, I would like to introduce our next panelist, Abhay Gupta. Hello, Abhay.
Hi, Rupak. How are you?
Fine, thank you. So Abhay Gupta, he is the CEO of Nanya Incorporated. It's a buying agency based in the NCR, which deals exclusively in the high fashion, high value women's wear category. This is a segment which is very important to the cluster of North India that we are in. And I think most of the people in the audience here would relate more to it. In light of this, Abhay, could you give us some more insight into this market? Because from what I see, this particular segment has not been so impacted by this epidemic. I've not seen too many cancellations or too many delays of shipment of product to like September, October, as has happened with some of the largest retailers around. And how do you think India can build more value into this? How do you think India can approach new markets into this and take more market share from, let's say, Europe or USA, where I guess you're exporting to, as compared to, let's say, a China or a Vietnam, which also does some of these products?
So thank you, Rupak. I'm part of the women's contemporary category, which is referred to as the high fashion. Now, this category has an average of about 5 to 500 pieces, $50 to $200 per piece average, 6 to 8 seasons of buying per year. And it is highlighted by handcrafted, process-oriented, and value-added products, something which India has been doing for zillions of years. These are surely unprecedented times. We can call it crisis, or we can call it a catalyst for opportunity. We all know how Coco Chanel created her opportunities after World War I. We need to do ours. As I feel that the industry is now starting to open up after several weeks of quarantine of consumption, it will be reset and reshaped. The fashion industry will slow down, move away from overproduction, dumping. Focus will be more on quality over quantity and practicality over vanity. I think the high fashion has almost 80% of sales through physical retail, and USA has about 25 square feet of retail space per person presently. And these numbers are going to change post-COVID. A lot of fashion shows, fashion weeks, Met Gala, trend magazines, they'll all go into a hibernation mode. The digital footprints would be something which is going to come into prominence. And the fashion in the near future is going to become seasonless. High fashion brands will no longer be the trend followers as they used to be. We are going to see wardrobe swaps. We're going to see second-hand luxury. We're going to see renting clothes. And these all are going to surge. We all know the emergence of rent runway after the 2008 economic depression. And fashion will return to be an expression of individuality rather than an expression of image. Simplicity.
Do you think that India has a good space in this category that you deal in? It's a declining or an increasing category, you think?
It's a never increasing. It's an ever increasing category, and we see orders coming through the whole COVID situation because consumers still love the product which comes from India. That whole handmade kind of thing is still loved. It's still loved by everyone. So what should we do now? That's probably a question in everybody's mind. What should we do? I think till the consumer wallets have recovered, we need to, probably we'll have to go the traditional way of working. We'll have to change it. We'll have to focus on agility in business. We'll have to be more dynamic. Faster reactions will have to come into picture. Some price reductions will definitely be coming into prominence because the MRPs are shrinking now. But we at this time need to focus on some sewing skills. We need to work on made to last clothes, not on fashion too much, shorter lead times, digital interfaces, in-house systems, sustainable operations, and workplace ethics and workplace treatments.
So I had just one query here. In light of the artisans, a lot of migration has taken place because of the pandemic, this epidemic of the skilled artisans back to their villages. Are you facing this problem? Do you think that they will be back soon? And how do you retain your workforce?
This is a very unique industry because it's not a worker just working on a machine. It's a worker who's taken a lot of inspiration and a lot of work through generations. He's understood that product through generations. We need to retain them. That's probably the biggest thing that this industry needs to do. Retain those people. We need to retain them. That's probably the beaders and the workers have generational inputs of these products, and one needs to retain them, set them wherever you guys are working out of. You can't let them go back to villages, at least for this kind of a product. I think the options before us are few. We can probably, the customers are wanting to cut cost. So let's take up some work from the customers back to India. Maybe pattern designing, maybe tech designing, technical design, making, give them some support on logistical issues, maybe DDP, CIF. And we need to secure the supply chain. If you're cash rich, think about investing into a brand overseas. If you're cash not rich, then probably think about, seeking some investment from your brand. One day this pandemic
is very encouraging to hear all this. Sorry, Abhay, I had to cut you a bit short.
Yeah, thank you so much.
A webinar is always very pressed for time. And I'm sure your thoughts and what you shared is very useful for most of the audience here in the entire chain, from designers to our craftsmen, artisans, to the small exporter and the small agent, which, as I said, most of the people in the North India cluster deal in. With this, I would like to move on to our next panelist, Manish Bharti. Hello, Manish. Thank you for joining us.
Hello, everybody.
So I would like to introduce Manish Bharti, who's a veteran in this industry. He has a wide experience of running manufacturing and sourcing organizations globally, having lived and worked in Europe and Asia. Manish is currently the business head of Bharti International and has just returned after a long stint in Milan, Italy. He spent more than a decade in Li & Fung in the global value function and was also instrumental in starting the digital sampling outfit there. Manish passion has always been digitization and technology in enhancing every aspect of the value chain. With that in mind, Manish, could you share with us some insights about Southern and Western Europe? What are the altered retail realities there? And what does India need to do to penetrate these markets more?
Yeah, so thanks, Rupak. First and foremost, we have to understand that, Southern Europe, countries of Italy, Spain, and Western Europe, the country of UK, they have been they were worst impacted by the pandemic. Italy, in fact, became the center of, the whole pandemic in Europe. So obviously that has been a severe impact. Italy has been in a lockdown for more than 2 months. But the good news now, Rupak, from an Italian point of view, is that they started to open shops and cafes from this week, 18th May, and they are also going to allow the movement of people from North to Southern Europe starting 2nd of June, and most likely within European Union they would allow the movement of people also from 2nd of June. But obviously, this whole pandemic has taken a serious toll. And one of the things that I wish to highlight here is that a case in point is H&M. H&M currently retails through 181 stores in Italy. And because of the current situation, they said that they would actually cut down 10% of their stores and move their sales online. And they will penetrate with the help of online and through other channels. So this is definitely something that is going to, increase. And they will also increase their penetration into Eastern Europe. So I definitely see some kind of a consolidation at the store level where, customers, big customers, large scale customers will look at some consolidation and look at like for like sales and see how to move more online. So online is a big trend. One of the things that I wish to highlight, there has been a survey which has been conducted by National Chamber of Italy, which is a fashion chamber. They conducted a survey on more than 1,000 luxury shoppers. And the interesting thing that came out that 24% of these shoppers were first-time shoppers, and 76% of those shoppers said that they were very satisfied to shop online. So in my opinion, this is a very, very big finding coming out of the survey. And let's not forget that these are all luxury shoppers where people want to really do touch and feel, and people have gone ahead and they have bought things online. So another country, let's move to, is Spain. When we talk of Spain, of course, you have to talk about Inditex, because Inditex is headquartered in Spain and it operates from northern Spain. Inditex, as we know, operates more than 7,500 stores globally. Even at the peak of pandemic, Rupak, they continued to retail through 3,500 stores. And obviously they continue to service their customers through online channels, which is very, very heartwarming at this peak of the crisis. When the pandemic was just going to hit Spain after Italy around middle of March, around 15th or 18th of March, Inditex declared its annual reports. They declared their annual results, and their sales actually went up by 8%, and they crossed more than $30 billion in retail sale across their different brands and formats. So I think this is very, very encouraging. The most encouraging part is that 24% they saw a growth of 24% in the online sale, and the online sale totally became 14% of their total turnover, which is close to 4 billion euro, which is a massive, massive amount of online sale which they have gone into. The other aspect which is very interesting to look at is that they have come up with a clear goal on sustainability. They said that by 2020 they would not allow any plastics to be used in their stores, and by 2025 they have a very clear goal. Whether you look at different fiber base, whether it is cotton, whether it is viscose, linen, or even polyester, by 2025 they want all their products to be sustainable, and they put a tag of Join Life tag. And I think this is going to be a big opportunity for India, because when you have to create sustainable products, as some of my panelists also spoke, there's a lot of effort that needs to be put in the whole value chain. And I think India has been investing very, very nicely in this area. And I think this will be a game changer for India to sort of grow as Inditex moves to more sustainable products and items.
So do you think that these chains like Inditex and H&M, who have not sourced much from India, as you know, except for some high value garments, maybe which they can't do anywhere else, and the bulk of Indian exports is to mid-level retail chains or to importers in the European Union, largely to the UK and France, which are still much bigger markets than Germany, right, compared to Southern Europe. You think, what strategy would you think India should adopt to penetrate these markets more?
See, Rupak, when you look at companies like Inditex or H&M, you are not looking at just one country or two countries. It's just very incidental that Inditex happens to be in Spain, but they retail globally. They probably have the largest number of stores. One of the things that I would like to share on this platform is that about 57% of Inditex sourcing comes near shoring. And what do we mean by near shoring? Of course, near shoring is the production that happens near the country, where the retail or the brand is located, or where their major warehousing is. So they are currently producing in Spain, they produce in Portugal, or they source in Portugal, Turkey, Morocco. So this is the region which contributes 57%, and 57% is a huge, huge chunk which is waiting to be untapped, in my opinion, by the Indian manufacturing sector. Let's not forget that Inditex and the likes of H&M are fast fashion companies. They like to bring products very fast, and they are currently testing in smaller modules, 5,000 pieces with a follow-up order. This is like going back to the 80s and the 90s of the catalog business. And I see that trend coming back, and I think India has a role to play here.
All right, so it's very encouraging to hear that India can increase a share of exports to such massive retailers who traditionally have not looked at India because of the change in retail scenario. Now, as we have covered pretty comprehensively markets here, we have good insights on it. We would like to now focus a bit about product, because product logically flows from market. So I would like to start with Vivek. Vivek, as I pointed out earlier, you have been a sustainability driver. And for some years now, sustainability has been a buzzword in this industry. And we have read about the Higgs Index, the Sustainable Apparel Coalition, organics, and so on. Now, most people think of this as, oh, it's something that we can't get into. It's beyond us. What is the scope in it? It's a very small percentage of what the world will want. Do you think that that's changing? And how does India fit into this in terms of the products it can offer? And also the variety of products, like I would say that post-epidemic, the kind of apparel that people are choosing is also changing. Could you share some insights?
Yes, absolutely, Rupak. Sustainability has been the buzzword, but the word that has actually not been understood, especially in all producing countries, clearly. That has actually been the problem, because whenever we talk about sustainability, we restricted it to organic cottons, recycled polyesters, and the basics. So Rupak, let's first understand, you mentioned the Higgs Index and the Sustainable Apparel Coalition and so on. Why does India not create its own index? Why do we need an endorsement from one of these big companies or these big companies coming and saying, okay, this is how you should do business? We all have been doing business for so many years. Let's create our India index. And that's basically what I would like to talk to our audience also today. Let each company create a sustainable value proposition that is imperative to survival and resurgence of our trade and dominance. Friends, the sustainability concepts are not properly understood. It was done with the left hand, but today it can actually become the most powerful tool you can create and use to penetrate and build across the European and the Japanese markets, along with Australia as well. The word sustainability has to mean something more tangible and measurable. So sustainability to me is concepts, mindset, skill set, best practices, UN goals, product goals, people goals, environment goals. It is fluid and everyone can create a unique sustainable offer. Some of the key
I think some of the people are asking that how come nobody in the Indian export industry has created any sustainability report. Are you aware of exporters in India or agents who are kind of positioning themselves on this?
So you're right, Rupak, that what used to happen, it was driven by the buyers. And that is why exporters mainly, or the buying offices such as mine, were all dependent on what did the customer really want? Was it important to a customer? And that is why we only took it to the way the customer wanted us to do. So, but there are companies in the South. I work with 2 companies in the South, which are 100% sustainable, not from today. For the last 10 years, I've been doing business with them. And they had the GOTS, the Ocotex, and every certification then. There are many companies in North India which also believe in this concept. But what happens is that in the pressures of doing business, we go and take the easy option out. Let's get the buyer a SEDEX or a SMETA audit. Let's get the GOT certificate because the buyer wants it. So there are people now, especially in Scandinavia, who are saying, why do we need to get endorsement from all the big GOT certificate? Because we will have to pay them fees. Why don't you give me those parameters in your setup? Why don't you think beyond and create that? And I'm okay with that. I don't need to put a GOT certificate on my label or my tag and pay them a fee. And that is basically what I'm trying to say, that there are companies who are doing it. The push is small. I think as a country, as a country across the whole of India, we need to think alike and create it. That will make the difference. So I'll tell you a couple of things which many people may not have thought could actually get you business, but will. So some key and sustainable concepts for the Scandinavian market, especially idea 1, women empowerment. Build the DNA of your production offer based on 80% or more women employees and add sustainability to it. And you will get new customers quite easily. Idea 2, UN sustainability goals. Change your company's orientation to be drafted upon with at least 7 UN goals, along with your product offer of sustainable apparel and fashion. Success.
Right. So it's very encouraging to hear this, Vivek. I'm sure the audience has a lot of takeaways from this one product. Thank you. And as you spoke about Europe with Manish about a lot about this, I would like to now address Gaurav. Gaurav, in the North American continent, as we know, we're not going to talk about sustainability on organic cotton now because people there are not ready to pay the extra 20 cents on the tag of a t-shirt for organic, unless you're talking of a small customer segment in California or Denver, etc. And that's not the market that we are addressing. Some would be, but I'm talking of the mass market. What do you think what should be the product mix that your customers might be looking at in terms of sourcing?
This is very important right now. What going forward, how the consumer is looking at a product. I again feel organic is important. Home textile, which India has a huge strength, focusing on that, we have a lot of potential to grow that business. Another, an apparel sector, what the whole life cycle, the trend going forward is about being wearing activewear, loungewear, easy, because a lot of people are working from home for end of the year. Again, for the fall, this is what buyers would be looking for. A lot of tie-dye. Again, organic cotton is important. A lot of the tech fabrics are really, really important. I want to focus on that. Get ready. But, doing all this, are we ready to make it happen? First and foremost, have the presentations, develop the workforce. Very talented India has great potential to put it all together, but do we have the right? US is all about presentation. We present our apparel. We've been sourcing from different countries. We present all these apparels and home goods with 3D. I've been using software like Tech, and we've been very successful in giving out fashion shows through runways and giving a good virtual digital presentations. These are very core things. Once you get to that, sales become easy. So and the buyers come to you because you're presenting something new. Everybody all over the world, they've all got the same thing, but it is all about how we present it. Again, focusing on tech fabrics, what I'm saying, tie-dye is very important. India has a very, very good niche about vegetable dyes. I'm going to mention it again. Vegetable dyes are very important, whether it's home goods, whether it's apparel. So there'll be a lot of focus on that. People are very conscious. They'll be going, there's two sections. Mass market is cheap, absolutely low price. Are you ready? I know South of India is ready to do it. They're sharpening up pencils. I'm talking to great vendors out there. They have big capacities. They'll be focused on that. But for the northern part of India, good part is you have the capabilities, the printing capacity. So deliver the right product, right mix, make the presentation solid, that people do not give us colors that are not required for fall. Make presentations based on season. Do not throw us whatever comes our way. So, we've done this. Doesn't matter. You're presenting something to a customer. It should be attractive. Get it right and do it. I'm pretty sure India has the best Indian apparel industry, which for Indian clothes. Same thing, just study the trend on Pinterest.
All right, it's very encouraging to hear that you have also spoken of the cluster in the southern part and the western part of the country. I think you also have addressed earlier that most of the larger retailers are ready to now do smaller runs, which are very suitable for India, unlike, let's say, a 1 million piece order, which normally goes to Bangladesh. So between the product, I think everybody has covered adequately the need for what both the northern and the southern clusters need to do. And Gaurav, from what you say, I think textiles in India, which is needed for athleisure, are sorely lacking. Am I right? And we need to develop our capabilities in that.
Costing, sharpen up the pencil on that. Market is there.
All right. So having heard these insights now on market and product, I would like to move on to a very important aspect now, which is the future, which is technology. I would like to introduce to the audience Ms. Anupama Singhal. Hello, Anupama. Thanks for joining us.
Hi, Rupak. Thanks. Good to be here.
So Anupama Singhal, she's the co-founder, Integrated Retail and Slicer Pte Limited, and she's based out of Singapore, a creator of innovative platforms and tools to help the fashion industry. Her personal mantra has always been easier, faster, and better. And because of all the interaction we have had in this group, I can say for the fact that she is the tech queen amongst all of us. So Anupama, would you like to share with us some insights about how technology can help India in increasing its share in the world apparel market?
Sure. Thanks, Rupak. That's a nice title that you have given me. Made me smile today, right? Times have been very tough. And I think listening to all of you here and being part of the discussions, what I have found is that just like retailers, and that's who we work with normally, even the exporters and manufacturers and retailers, everybody has been hit really hard with COVID-19. And the entire set of stakeholders in the go-to-market chain is suffering. So whether they be designers, whether they be manufacturers, whether they are buying houses, everyone has been hard hit. And once the lockdown lifts, which it has started to do in many of the countries slowly, many operational issues are going to crop up because people are not going to be able to travel. There are a lot of travel restrictions. We have lost a lot of workforce, which are the skilled artisans who have gone back to their villages and so on. In terms of retail operations, it's going to be another big headache because people are going to be a little bit wary of trying clothes. First of all, the demand has gone down. And the second thing will be that, when you go out, there are going to be so many restrictions. Like in Singapore, they have this rule of like traffic density. So they are kind of controlling how many people are going to be in the shops at a particular time, right? How are we going to handle trials and so on? So, looking at all this, we have been in the group, we have been chatting about it, and we are actually creating a kind of a map which goes through all the process chains and says, what can we do using technology? How can we use technology to help at each of these processes? So if people are interested, they can just comment in the chat and we will get back to them. But I would like to give them one mantra today, which is like, look at all your processes from a build, bond, and book scenario. So when you're building the line, think of if you're not using technology, if you're not using tools which help you build your products in a very technological fashion. So if you're still using, disjointed processes and tools, and your designs are not on the cloud for your team to collaborate and share, it's going to be a major problem. Because a lot of people, like you guys also said, are going to work from home, right? So we have to be able to share and collaborate online. There are a lot of software solutions that are now available that are coming up. And in fact, a lot of people are creating solutions. And I think Manish will also talk about this in a while. But what we have seen is that using web technology for collaborating online using Zoom, I think everybody has got used to it. But we will have to replace, the physical face-to-face interactions. And we will have to manage our bonding with our external stakeholders, with our vendors, with our buyers, with our store managers, with our team, which is spread across, maybe cities, countries, or the globe. And it's going to be a really, those companies who are able to do this nicely are the ones who are going to be able to move forward very, very quickly. And so that is build and that is bond. And the third, which is the most important part, is how do you get your orders? How do you showcase your products online? So there are going to be virtual showrooms where you can actually showcase your products and you can book orders with your retailers, whether they be franchisees or your buyers. It could also be within the company. So, like earlier, people would have trade shows, line presentations. They would actually go and physically have shows, touch and feel the samples, look at the products. They're not going to be able to do that. So what is really needed is that we move all our, digital design repository online so that we can work together within the company and we can work with our stakeholders as well online.
All right, so it's very encouraging to hear this. And I think the fact that we are on a platform when people from California to Singapore to New Delhi are all connected on one, validates your point more than anything else.
Yeah, so remember
Manish,
that,
yes,
build, bond, and book online.
all right. So Manish, I would like to ask you that this is the age of digital. As you are aware, Zoom has soared to a market capitalization of 48 billion US dollars, right? While the world's largest fashion group, Inditex, which owns Zara, is about 80 billion US dollars, and the Gap Incorporated is maybe at around 5 billion US dollars. So, do you think digitization would help fast fashion in terms of speed to market? Could you give us some concrete examples in terms of like fit, in terms of sampling, in terms of virtual showroom Anupa has discussed? So the virtual runways which we are seeing all over Milan and Paris, etc.
Yeah, so Rupa, we have to understand that digitalization, as it is called, is a new way of working. So what fundamentally happens is that, you have to build a trust. As Anupma also mentioned, the fundamental point is that, the buyer who is ordering a product, will not be able to touch and feel, which means that you need to have a trust and faith on the creators. And I think that's where the whole digital technology come into play. There are two aspects of the whole technology. One is that how do you create those products by the use of the digital tool, and the second aspect is on the showcase and selling, which is on the commercial and the buying and the retail side. Now, when you look at the whole product development process, Rupak, there are 3 or 4 key aspects. One is that, the pattern making, then the fitting, checking the fitting, and then, which is actually the whole virtual sample making. You render the product, which is actually putting some nice designs on the same product and creating many options. So this whole process, virtual sampling process that we call, there are many solutions which are available. But I would like to mention that, some companies like Tuka Tech, which is headquartered in LA. Then there's Optitex, which is actually a startup from Israel, which has now been bought by a Canadian company, and a Clo, which is a Korean company. They have been successfully demonstrating their capability. And I think these solutions are very good to use. So
one second, I would like to ask you one thing, that fast fashion is not compatible with reorders, correct? Or is it because they would not order the same thing? Fast fashion very much means that you wear and you dispose. And that is what unfortunately the world is going to.
I think, Rupak, it's a very interesting point. Fast fashion necessarily does not mean speed to the market. I think the new reality would be speed to the market, that even if you would order something, why would you want that thing to take 75 to 90 days? Even if I order something which is normal, and I don't want to call it fast fashion. The whole thing about fast fashion came in because you said that not that you want to throw it away, but the point is that you want to bring in new trends every month. And that's why, certain things become obsolete. But there are companies which sell classic product. They would not now not like to sort of have these long lead times. And they would say that I would like to go to the market with my normal products, but I would like to do that in a much speedier way. And I think that's where the whole concept of speed to the market for me is very, very important, that your regular business actually becomes speed to the market. And then, so this is all about creating the product which helps you to tremendously reduce the lead time. The other aspect is showcasing and selling. So what we have recently seen, the good example came from Shanghai Fashion Week, where the runway was made live and it became a B2B2C affair. So what happened, that there were shops, there were retailers who were sort of taking the live stream, and they were in turn sharing this live stream with their customer, with the end consumer. And they were able to get the feedback from consumer on which style they thought that the consumer is liking. And so that's how the trade, I think that's going to become a new trade reality. And now we are seeing this trend, which is going to come to Europe. Milan has recently announced, which will be Milan Digital Fashion Week. London Fashion Week will become London Digital Fashion Week. And I think that's going to become the go-to-market place for everything now.
So I think these are very insightful knowledge that you've given. And I think that if the audience wants to have concrete examples of what they should refer to that you talk about, then they can reach out to us on the Vista website and you and Anupama can guide them either, right?
Yes,
Now,
yes, I think
I would just like to come back to Vivek for a couple of minutes, because how is digitization, fast fashion, how is it compatible with sustainability that you talked about? Is there a fit between the two? I mean, I'm not so clear on that.
So, Rupak, absolutely. Fast fashion, speed to market, or whatever we call them, ultimately, it is the sensitivity of the customer that is actually relevant here. The whole tech aspect in athleisure, the whole tech aspect in the clothes that we create from now onwards post-COVID, that is all going to become tangible, but we need to be careful that we are not using too many of the nano finishes that could actually lead to some issues which they're allegedly not safe. If you look at health and technology based on sustainability at its course, the athleisure, yoga lines, and the fiber tech USP should be entirely sustainability driven, and that actually needs technology. We have not really invested in that aspect of technology, but that actually will become critical because the garments are simpler. People are looking at fittings and everything to be made faster so that we can actually spend more time on developing the product. The environment and the carbon footprint measuring or the waterless technology is actually quite large. This is all the areas that are related to it. India needs to get up, and basically it's the change in mindset that shall we do fast fashion with technology at its core, from the fittings to the product, because we don't really know how to measure carbon footprint in this country. Very few companies in our country are able to do it, but that's a demand globally. So collaborate with the textile supply chain, and we at Vista will align you to achieve the product penetration. Go green, go carbon neutral, go waterless, and technology is at the base of it.
All right, very good to hear that. Now, I think we have addressed the key issues here of market, product, and technology. I would like now to move on to our Q&A section. In our last webinar, which was held on the 30th of April 2020, post-COVID revival strategies, textiles and apparel, we had an overwhelming response. We cannot address all the questions here and also all the questions which have come in this webinar session. And the key questions would be attended to. The answers to the rest would be posted onto a LinkedIn handle. So I would like to hand over at this stage to Dr. Rajesh Bhera, who's the CEO of Rajesh Bhera Consulting and has vast experience of many years, particularly in the field of manufacturing. And he's been very active in numerous countries like Myanmar, Ethiopia, and Central Asia. I lose count.
Thank you, Rupert. And good evening, all. Good morning, depending on where you're joining in from. So thank you for tuning in. We have some interesting questions from this session as well as the past session, and we will try to manage that in time. So our first question goes to Roshan, which is basically people are saying that, our question was that when we have limited cash flow and thin orders, there are norms of social distancing. So how do we manage the factory survival? And does PPE production give an option? So that's the question sort of addressed to you, Roshan. Would you be able to throw some light on that?
Yeah, hello everyone. Am I audible?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, hello everyone. Thank you, Dr. Bhera, for asking me this. So PPE has come as a boon for the exporters in India, where the orders were dwindling or on hold throughout the world. So we can, obviously there is a huge opportunity there, but what we can do with PPE manufacturing in terms of social distancing area is that what we have also done now is we are running, because we can only have about 30% of our workers working in a factory today. We have started doing night shifts where PPE manufacturing is being done, and it's an easier product for the night shift category. So this is one where we can increase our cash flows. B, we can also increase our cash flows by increasing some part of efficiency we talked about in the last seminar. So efficiency needs to be focused on. Right now, we have to use attachments, gadgets, machines, which can help us improve our efficiencies. And these can also in turn help us improve cash flows. So I think the main two things is night shift, making efficiency better, and engaging with our workforce absolutely is necessary in these times to get the right cash flows.
Thank you, Roshan. Pallab, would you like to add something to what Roshan has said, the insights what he has given, mainly from the survival and cash flow point of view from manufacturers?
Yes, I think as all of us recognize the fact that the times are tough. So how detailed control that you have got, each line item of your, the balance sheet or the profit and loss statement, and towards the cash flow is very, very important in today's date. Definitely the credit limits that is there, and when the pandemic affected us, most of the manufacturers were using the maximum limit of their credit limits because it was a peak season. So naturally, like, you have to have a complete control. And I think the first thing that I think most of the manufacturers must have done in this period of lockdown, or whatever this little of production or whatever they have been having at this point of time, is to get that control. Once you have that control, once you do know how much of loss that you are going to, have to absorb today, because there is no other option, and how you do that whole balancing part, so that you have on one hand a lot of cancellation, a lot of liabilities, on the other hand you have got a lot of future orders which has to be delivered in the fall. As we discussed in this meeting, definitely the Europe and US would be hungry for the fall goods. So that's something which is to be delivered by India. That's the first priority at this point of time. So if you don't have a control over your cash flow, then how do you pay for those raw materials? How do you pay for the workers, wages, everything? That's something is the first priority at this point of time.
Thank you. Thank you. I have a small question for Rupak. And one of our participants asked that, what is the future of small buying agencies? How do they manage? How do they survive business? So do you have any tips for them? You're on mute, Rupak. You have to unmute yourself. Okay. Can Devi, would you like to come in?
Yeah. Okay. So I think this is the time when the small buying agencies or the leadership there has a very, very crucial role to play. I think they can be the change maker which we need in this country, because we're talking about, engaging with a lot of customers who are engaged in sustainability, high fashion, but at the same time doing smaller volumes. Similarly, we are also talking about a lot of smaller vendors, and I think they can take that leadership mantle and they can, really drive the digitization mantle. They can drive the sustainability, and they can be the people who are basically making everybody move proactively. So I believe that they have a very, very crucial role to play, and they just have to embrace it. They have to move forward, and they have to lead the way, because they can be the matchmaker. They can be the people who are bringing everybody together.
Wonderful. So as long as they add value, then they have reason to be. Don't go up. We have one more question for you. People are asking that is there opportunity of getting some business out of China, because some business will move out of China, which countries it will go to? So the question is, how much can we bring to India? That's number one. And second question, again, also maybe you can add to that, should the exporters also be looking at domestic market as a makeshift arrangement, as a stopgap arrangement? So please throw some light on this.
So first of all, I think the China business has been moving since Trump went after China. So we have a lot of customers who were at one point in the time doing almost like 45% of their sourcing from China. Today, they do probably maybe 14 to 15% of their sourcing from China. So I think a lot of the business has already moved out of China, and the numbers which we see about China exports, a lot of it is related to raw material, and the categories which somehow the other, a lot of the people are not able to touch, like sweaters, for example. They really have a very, very strong hold on those kind of a category. Having said that, I think the very clearly China is becoming expensive. It is becoming a country where a lot of people don't want to be. So I would say the moment we decide to get out of our comfort zone, we can win a lot of business from China, or for that matter, for any other country. I think somewhere down the line, we tend to be very relaxed. We don't want to move some business. All I can say is about my own company, we probably do, I mean, we have operations in 16 countries, but the maximum business we do is out of India. And whether it is US market, Europe market, everywhere, India is winning, you know. So I guess we just have to shift our mindset a bit, get out of the comfort zone, and we can win a lot of the business. Coming to the domestic
I'm sorry to
market,
interject here, but Devinder would also like to point out that, as you know, Chinese companies are purchasing a lot of retailers in the USA and in Europe, right?
yes.
And we don't stand a chance in terms of competition in that way, right? I mean, obviously, a Chinese-owned company would purchase largely from China. What do you think we should do to counter that? Or can we do anything at all?
You know, Rupak, the funny thing is that the Chinese companies are not able to source out of China. They are, I mean, we have a lot of these Chinese brands who are, you know, we don't know, but the surprising thing is a lot of these Chinese brands are couple $1 billion brand, a lot of them. And the appetite which they have in terms of buying is unbelievable. So there is, unfortunately, we don't see that business because it is going a lot to places like Vietnam, Cambodia, you know, those kind of places are taking away a lot of that business. But the China is becoming expensive. That's a fact. The value addition, whatever, it's a very big opportunity. I just want to say one thing, that the moment, I mean, we have companies who can compete, beat Chinese companies day in, day out. And they're doing it in India.
That's
It's
great.
just that we just have to increase the number of them. That's it.
Domestic market, Devi, quick take on
Domestic market, I believe that domestic market is also struggling. But at the same time, I believe that we have a lot of opportunities to feed the domestic market with some of the orders of the fabrics which have been cancelled, you know. So I think we should take advantage of that, and as an export community, and feed the domestic market. And otherwise they're also struggling. And I still believe that we have it's better to focus on, you know, what all the panelists were talking about: digitization, sustainability, speed to market, and stick to exports, you know.
That's great. So we have a couple of interesting questions coming about sustainability area. And Rupak had also asked about the sustainability reports. So in India, we've got some real good leaders. So Arvind has an annual sustainability report coming in. We have Aditya Birla, which is mainly a domestic player, but again has a wonderful sustainability report coming in at par with any international brand, if you were to say. There are leaders like KG Denims and Vardhaman. They have done some good work. Pratibha Syntex has done good work in the area of sustainability. So there are some very good examples which are of international level. There's one interesting comment saying that, will fast fashion actually lead us to doing more of a landfill, or you know, is that a dangerous sort of, you know, trend that is following? So that was the question, which is quick. Manish, if you just want to reflect on 30 seconds, then we'll go to the next question. Because fast fashion is accused of landfilling.
Yeah, sir. I think, you know, there has been a lot of misunderstanding, in my opinion, about fast fashion. As I said before also that, you know, while trying to speed up the business, you know, we sometimes think that that's the fast fashion. However, I think I would say that fast fashion, which becomes more responsible. And when you take the case of, you know, Inditex, and that's why I mentioned clearly the goals that Inditex said that in 2025, they want to be 100% sustainable, which definitely means that they are addressing some of these issues. They are looking at the whole recycling and the other aspects of landfill and waste management. And I think this will get addressed in the next 5 years. And if Indian companies, you know, the Arvinds and the other big companies are at the forefront of this, they will definitely have a big part to play. And a big chunk of the business should come to India because of that.
Thanks, Manish. I think that's great. So even the definition of sustainability is changing, and all these brands are being watched very carefully by various quarters. And this will keep on evolving, but we got to keep track of this. There's also another interesting question has come in. How can we develop and grow the design-led business out of India, where we can offer design solutions and not really be reflecting to or sort of fulfilling the demands of the buyers? So is there anybody who would like to give some take in terms of how do we come out with creative design collections which are original designs from India? Vivek, would you like to say something about it?
Sure, Dr. Bera. So design has been India's strength from the very beginning, but over the last 10 years, somehow we lost focus on it because the whole engine was driven by the large format retailers, where there was a large design team and the likes of the Zaras and the H&Ms and all of them, which brought in a commercially lower priced product, flooded the market. Today, with the whole concept of mindful consumption coming in, which means we are going to be reducing waste, we are going to be thinking of reuse, the whole aspect of designing a product again with sustainability and a better, longer lasting impact, heritage and quality will be the standing buzzwords. So if we are able to design, India's ahead. We have so many students passing out from various institutes. We need to get them to think differently, but we need to lead the change as the entrepreneurs. And India can actually create that. That is going to be the challenge, and that is going to be the opportunity.
I just want to add here quickly. I think what has happened with the post-COVID world is that everybody's going to cut expenses, especially the customer. And this is where India has a huge opportunity to go to a lot of the customers who are going to look for more for direct to consumer business, e-commerce business, and say that, listen, we are going to make almost 80% of your collection for the e-commerce business. From design to delivery. And I think India is probably the only country in the world who can do it. And we have to embrace that and we have to really act on it.
Thanks a lot.
So, Dr. Bera, if I could just ask a couple of things, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
There are some questions coming in for Roshan. And Roshan, what they're saying is, like, when you mentioned that PP is a product which will be done in the night shift. And I seem to be a little surprised because most of them are saying that they're doing it in the day to keep the workers busy. And night would be another overhead. So is it that your situation is different from the normal production oriented people here?
Yeah. So Rupak, what is happening is most of the factories in North India and probably across India are allowed to work with 30 to 40% workforce. So, and once we have started from the lockdown, a lot of our customers and probably for a lot of people, they are asking the goods which were held up for the last 2 months. So most of us are using the day shift and the 30% workforce which we've been allowed to fulfill the requirements of the buyers who are taking our products. If some factory is there which has no work at all, then they can, yes, of course, make the PPE kits in the morning also. But if people have constraints and buyers are asking for products, I think day shifts are being used for furnishing those orders which the buyers are asking. And night shifts can be used to make PPE kits, which will add to your cash flows. I think it'll not add to your overhead, but it'll mitigate your overhead in that sense. So this is what I was trying to say. But if somebody has no orders to fulfill right now, obviously they can do it, the PPE kitting manufacturing in the daytime also.
Okay. Dr. Bera, any other questions we'd like to address?
Comments coming in. We are coming closer to the closing time, but we have some interesting comments coming in. So Chris is coming from USA. He's a sourcing specialist, and he has brought in very important point that every day saved in pre-production is what is really helping you in production and helping you crash the lead time. So there was a question about how do you crash the lead time, and pre-production area is really, really important. You can use principles of theory of constraints and priority management system, and great amount of savings can happen there. Digital solutions, what have been talked about, also can help a lot in reducing the lead time. More specific questions we'll be able to answer through our Vista page. Thank you. Thanks a lot for all your interesting questions and comments. We would be having a next series of webinar coming in June. which will really focus on how do we rise from the ashes and how do we integrate the export international business with the domestic business as such. So with that, I will pass on the baton to Rupak again for conclusion.
Yes, so I think we have reached the end of this webinar. I hope that everybody has found it informative and useful. And it's the weekend, so I'm sure everyone wants to move on right now, whatever a weekend can be in these times. So I would like to thank this amazing audience and its participants. And the next webinar, as Dr. Bhera said, would focus, yes, on how India can rise like a phoenix from the ashes of this global epidemic. And we would talk more in that about policy changes and about how to get in foreign investment into India, which India sadly has almost zero or has just started to come in, the way Vietnam and Bangladesh are dominated by investments from the Asian tigers. And we would conclude with that. And if anyone has any questions in the Q&A section which you put in, that would be addressed. And you are welcome to email us at vistawebinar@gmail.com. So good evening, everyone again. Stay safe, stay well, and we will see you soon. Goodbye.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.